In the 7th month of the lunar calendar, in Chengdu, Sichuan, the sun bakes the earth and wants to smoke. There are 4 strange people sitting in an authentic Sichuan restaurant. A middle-aged fat man wearing master's glasses. A pair of small eyes keep dripping and turning towards the red dishes on the table. His mouth keeps pricking, panting, and saliva. One is dressed in camouflage and short sleeves, standing with a flat head. The man in front of him was looking at the fat man with a grin, playing with a jade in his hand. He carried it. One is dressed in blue bodybuilding pants, white vest, tall and tall. A girl with a delicate face, staring at a table full of dishes, shaking his head and sighing. One in a white kaftan, wear black square-toe cloth shoes. A man with thick eyebrows and big eyes. The air is magnificent. Have a dignified appearance. Every move is quite in the style of everyone. It's already a pioneer look. A spicy smell fills the nostrils. Brother Wang. If you can't eat spicy food, don't be strong. You beware of other people's assholes. What do you kid know? Your dad will enjoy it more than you do. How can you not eat spicy food in Sichuan? If you don't eat spicy food here, can you call Sichuan? Come on, Wenbin, let's go first. As he spoke, he took his glass, lunged at the man in the white robe in front of him, and raised it. But in exchange for the muttering of the girl on the side. You know I can't eat spicy. I also ordered this table. Brother Wang is really selfish and slow. The man in the robe said with a smile. Hey Wang. Let's ask the boss to serve something that isn't spicy, lest they starve both. We'll have to go up the mountain tomorrow morning. The little girl listened to the amusement. It's still Brother Wenbin's best. Chaozi, you say yes. Brother Wenbin, that's naturally good for you. Brother Wenbin can subdue demons, but I just can't bring down you, little witch. The young man in camouflage uniform. The 3 words, little witch, were deliberately aggravated. Who do you call a little witch? Who do you call a little witch? You're a dead soldier. That's you. Little witch, little witch. That little girl was so angry. Get up and chase after you. I got up and ran around the restaurant. The girl in the back chased after her. This line of people. It was this cultural census that was conducted. He is old. Plus the pain of frustration. There is no approval above. His son He Chao followed. The one in camouflage uniform. It's He Chao. The fat man with glasses. Naturally, it's Lao Wang, the leader of this cultural relic survey. What about the man in Changshan? Naturally, it was Zhan Bing, technical advisor for the census. I have to mention the little witch who shouted in He Chao's mouth. The cold remains. She is the daughter of the director of the Provincial Institute of Archaeology, Lung Jihong. The cold remains. The name sounds cold, though. But he's a very good guy. It's a college student who has just been assigned to the institute. He Chao grew up in the same yard. When I was a child, I always followed He Chao to make trouble. It's a little more wild than the average boy. Because of such a character, many boys are afraid of him. Over time, she got the title of a little witch. This one, I came out with him to practice. There was no him before leaving. I heard that I was going to Sichuan. Long is still full of thoughts about traveling in the mountains and rivers, begging his father alive and dead. In the end, his father finally agreed. Before leaving, his father explained Zhan Bing several times. Be sure to take care of this daughter for him. If you can't, you can even beat him. Day 2. Mount Qingcheng. Zhan Bing looked at the sword-ruined ditch sealed by the cliff and the 100-foot-high Zhongren. The surrounding martial arts are still fierce. Gumu is smart. Shangli and Yin Mansion. The lower spirit is clear. Leisurely home. I can't help but admire. Yes. What a human house. Not to mention it, the world is worried. The cold over there is still busy letting He Chao take pictures of him in various looks. It's a lot of fun. Thought. This trip is the first experience. Isn't it just a trip to the mountains and rivers? It seems to recover. It's not at all as boring as they say. Lao Wang looked in front of him. It is called The One Who Is Honest and Absolute. 394-word couplet. Naturally, the famous poem of the route was welcomed. The gold transfer book is tied to the Golden Gate. Jiadao giant bamboo Tunkang cloud. The eye collar is as smooth as the world. Senja Dandan. And it's silver. Wenbin, you see how the feng shui is here? Zhao Wenbin said with a smile. Mount Xincheng, surrounded by 36 peaks. Look at the main peak, Lao shouting. Straight into the sky. It is with my Taoist 36 caves. The 36 heavens. Magnificent. Fairy birds around. It's really a fairyland on earth. Das Hongzi House. No wonder. Zhang Tianshi will choose this place. It's really worthy of the reputation of the fifth frozen sky. Feng Shui is excellent. Iran over there has already finished taking pictures. Listen to them discussing Feng Shui here. Interjected asked. What is 36? He Chao saw that the little witch was going to pester Zhan Bing. Laughed and scolded. You know what? Taoism pays attention to every number. Here's the mystery. You little witch can understand. When Ben is not too troublesome, I guess I'm in a good mood today. Explain with your mouth. Taoism has the doctrine of the 36 heavens. Taoism divides the heavens into 30 layers. There are 28 floors below. And on the top of the heavens on the mirror of Shiraku, 8 floors have been added. 4 of them are 4 on the 4th floor, 3 blue sky and 4 floors. The first floor of Deluotian. This Deluotian is the top layer. Lao Wang also heard it. Asked, what about the 28 floors ahead? Zhao Wenbin glanced at it. 3 people who listened with interest. But I'll just tell you about the 36 heavens of the preacher. The Taoists divide these 36 heavens into 6 realms. This first realm has 6 heavens. That is, the emperor and the emperor. Timing Tamara heaven. Qingming in the same day. Xian Mas Ping Yutian. Yuan Mingwen lifted the sky. 7 medicinal Mai days. The second has 18 heavens. The word is Wu Yu Hongtian. Tai Chi Ming Yitian. Chiming and Yangtian. Shiming Gong Huishan. Yaoming sect floats in the sky. Zhu Ruo Huang Jiayan. Su Ming Tang Yaodian. The official is dignified and respectful. Shiming Palace Qingtia. Taihuan Ji Yaotian. The third has 4 heavens, respectively. The third is what I just said. Like Brahma, Wu Shang Changrong Tian. Imperial Dragon Hall Holy Heaven. Dragons all over Brahma. Ping Yu Jia Yashitan. The 5th is San Kingshan. Yu Qing Tian. Shaoxing Sky. It's too clear. This is the highest level. It's the 6th. Deluo God. Wow. It's complicated. That civilized brother. What realm are you from? The little witch Long still couldn't wait to ask after listening. Me. I don't know. Let's go. Let's go inside. Zavenbing ignored the difficult little witch. Take the lead and go inside. The 3 people behind him also followed. It's just that the little witch is still wrestling her fingers. Look up at the sky. I thought to myself, how can we divide this sky into 6 layers? 36 floors. This Qingqing mountain. The air is excellent. Naturally, there are a lot of people. Restraint is like a shuttle. and visitors are like branches. There are also a few people who look like Taoist priests in the store. I am unsigning for tourists. Zavenbing was interested. I went up and listened for a while. Look at the middle-aged woman. After hearing that he was about to go to Red Luck, the expression of joy before putting down the merit, he couldn't help but shake his head. I don't want this famous mountain. It has also been tainted by the world. Do some of this kind of trick. That's fine. Lao Wang. What about today? We think we're tourists. This Qingqing Mountain is still Qingqing Mountain. That's it. I'm afraid it's not the way we're looking for. Lao Wang took a few large sips of water. I guess it's really hot today. It's the same everywhere now. Under the guise of being left behind by our ancestors, we generate income. Where else is there anyone who is sincere to the Tao? This is also the significance of the census conducted above. Hopefully, we'll be able to dig up some of the relics left by our ancestors. Let's go. Let's go up and have a look. These palaces have been developed into scenic areas. There are people everywhere. There must be some ruins. I'm afraid I found out a long time ago. Zavenbing said, take the lead and walk ahead. Destination. The first peak of Qingqing. Lift the top. Old Xiaoding. Zawenbing said as he walked. I heard that an old military pavilion was built on the top of the mountain. Since it's here, you will always go up and worship. Girl, can you keep up? There is nothing wrong with He Supernatural. The little witch coaxed her shoulders. Pat your slender thighs to show you can. Only Lao Wang was already sweating. A few people in the group have seen the old military pavilion. Worshipped the Heavenly Master Cave. In addition to a beautiful landscape, only the Zan soldiers remained. Explained some basic Taoist history to a few people along the way. It's also lightweight. It was already evening when we waited to descend the mountain. A few people went to a small town at the foot of the mountain to complain. The innkeeper who came to lazy people, pulling the corners of his clothes at the top of his throat. The little girl was so frightened that she thought she was in a bandit's den. I almost got into a fight with a couple of marijuana. I'm hesitating where to complain. Here comes a man who looks like an old man from the countryside. Come and answer. A few guests. Is it a tourist to Qingqing Mountain? The little girl thought she was soliciting again. But he refused to answer. But Lao Wang was really skinned. I asked casually. Oh yes, isn't this going down the mountain to find a place to live? You're here to solicit customers, too. The old man listened. It's very polite. Remove the straw hat on your head and use it as a fan. Alas, my family has a farmhouse hostel. The price is half cheaper than these hostels. Except for the remote location. It's also relatively clean. A few of them are going to live. I can give you a cheaper one. The name of this array is purple tiling. It is said that Mr. Zhuge recruited 1,200 people back then. The main household is Jiangyan. Ton soldiers and horses are super flat. That's it. Because of the relationship between Qingqing Mountain, this is a historically famous military town. Now it is a well-known tourist town. Zavenbing is not a person who loves to be lively. I heard a quiet place. I wish I had left the place where these scum heaps were early. Pick a secluded place to stay. I promised to go over and have a look first. The old man led the way, and the group passed. This inn was also a 2-story building. The owners are all farmers. Take advantage of the tourist wind. The small building was converted into a small hotel. It's not luxurious, though, but also clean enough. Maybe it's because the location is too remote. Except for the dead of Zaven and his party, there are no other tourists staying here. Instead, let them have a quiet time. This host is also a hospitable man. I want to come. On weekdays, there are not many guests. Looking at these 4 people, they were naturally indignant and enthusiastic. I have to have dinner together. The land of Bashu has always been like a guest. Around a large round table, I ate some wild mushrooms. Farmhouse nest. It's just this hot and spicy soup. Even the cold-clothed man who never touches chili peppers. It's also a big addiction. Not to mention Lao Wang and Zhan Bing. As for He Chao, I have already had 3 glasses of liquor with the host's family. Raise up your brother there. I see. The family has a son. He was also a soldier. Just ask. With He Chao, previously in the same troops. The comrades in arms saw each other very clearly. The 2 brothers drank and red-faced. The conversation was also very happy. I drank a lot of wine. Naturally, there are more words. This farmer's old man's name is Chua Yugue. His son who had been discharged from the army was named Zhuxiong, because I don't have any strength. People say he's a blind bear. Later, he shouted and became blind. But he wasn't really blind. His eyes are good. Originally, the son returned from the army. The top is to arrange a share of the town's officials and criminals. This kid is sexually uneven. Because I can't get used to those bureaucratic styles, I clashed with the leader several times. I simply quit my errand, helping the family to take care of the small farmhouse, although poor. But it's very comfortable. This introduction provoked He Chao. Very much admired. I drank a few more glasses in a row. It's not fun. You have to shout for a big bowl. Was stopped by Zha Wenbin. It's also a chatterbox. Explained his identity. Archaeology has taken root in the countryside all year round. I can't help but ask. There are some strange legends around here. Zhuo Laohan listened. Is an expert in archaeology. I can't help but have a little more respect. The old man touched himself. Said the wide medicine bowed his head. Don't hide it from the 2. In our Qingqing mountain, there are no legends. Naturally, it can't be. This Taoist immortal mountain, there have been some fairy stories since childhood. We've also been exposed to it since we were kids. During the Cultural Revolution, many monuments have been destroyed. If you want to learn, I'm afraid there really is no trace of it. But there is a place. It's just that. Zha Wenbin was very interested. Asked. It's just how. You might as well talk about it. I don't want to think that Zhuo Laohan waved his hand. Never mind. That place. You'd better not go. Oh. You keep talking. Come and listen. Zhuo Laohan nodded. That's fine. I'm not from the Purple Bottle Shop. It is a small mountain village more than 30 kilometers away from here. It's a little closed, but there are also mountains and rivers roaring. 30 years ago, got a daughter named Zhuolian. The year the blind man was born. Her sister was born by her mother. Take it into the mountains to collect medicinal herbs. We people there make a living by collecting medicines. But there is only one place that I never visit. Said the person who came back. The 2 of them were led to that place by the little ghost. Never came back. Go ahead. Zhuo Laohan is already full of tears. I guess I remember the sad past. Lao Wang handed him a cigarette, motioned for him to take his time. Zhuo Laohan took it and lit it. Continue to speak. It is 10 miles away from our village. There is a big mountain. From a distance, it was pitch black. But Middle Age is filled with fog. Legend has it that there are some fairy grass racer mushrooms in it. It's just that there is a message on each group. You can't go half a step into the mountain. I really couldn't live the days before liberation. There are also a few brave herb pickers. I want to go into the mountain to find some herbs before changing my mouth for rice to eat. Don't want to go in 3 old hunters. They all carried powder guns on their backs. I didn't see anyone come out for 7 days. The people outside were so anxious that they couldn't do anything. The village discussed going to 3 more hunters to look for it. I don't want to spend another 7 days. Only one person who came out and went in. He was covered in scars. The mouth only repeats the recitation. There are ghosts in it. It didn't take 3 days, and he died. There are ghosts in it. Lunga ran next to it, listened to it with relish, interjected. There is the old king opposite, glared at him fiercely. The little girl sighed with her tongue, dragging cheeks. No more talking. Oh yes. The one who came out, before dying. I keep repeating this phrase. Since then, no one has dared to enter the mountain again. I don't think how my mother is going there. It must be a mountain ghost in the mountain who led the way. Pity me left with Shuxiong, who is less than a year old. Depend on each other. Hearing this, Zhao Wenbin interjected and asked, So how can you be sure they're going into the mountain? The old man wiped away his tears and replied by his neck. Someone saw them go in. Shouted a few times. No one agreed. Take a closer look. Disappeared into the mist. Hurry down the hill and let me know. I immediately called someone to look for it. But there was a fog inside. Flatulence. No one dared to take a step forward. I can only stay in the mountain pass. Waited for more than a month. There was no one to be seen. I'm afraid I'm in trouble. After descending the mountain, I take the blind with me. Come to this purple tile. Ben would have done a little carpenter's work. I made my home here. Later I heard about the people on the mountain. They have also been brought out one after another. But as for where it went, I don't know. All these years. That little village. I'm afraid it's already deserted. Bedraggled. There's no one there. Nope. The land is also barren. The traffic is also inconvenient. Mix some herbs out for food. Good foot strength also takes a whole day. With more and more young people come out and work. There was no one there. Zavenbing nodded. Do you know what the name of the mountain is? Zhualaohan made a choice. How can you not know? It is said that there is a fairy grass racer on the mountain. But they were all guarded by serpents. That's why the mountain is also called the Riding Wind Mountain. The little witch over there immediately giggled. Said, Ride a snake. Old man, let's laugh again. I know how to ride snakes. The snake rider is also called the 5-step snake. The main production area is also. It is in Zhujiang and Liangguang. Where did this Sichuan come from to ride a snake? Zhualaohan was unwilling. Justified with a white face. You little girl. Know what? Lung still pouted. Disagree. Looks like a good show. Zhao Wenbin said. Ride a snake. It was the first to fall into the theory of thunder guns. It is also known as the white flower snake. Kaibao Materia Medica. Born in the mountains of Nandi and Shu County. This sketch passes through the clouds. Jinganshong and Qizhou and Dengzhou are all available. Materia Medica, steel and wood clouds. There are flowers, snakes, and tigers. The scriptures are in the name of Qi Snake. However, there are not many places to be found. It is the one who won the lawsuit. Received from the mountains of Xinghua Prefecture in the south of the Yangtze River. Thus, in the land of Bashu, there were snakes in ancient times. There is a historical record. Some deep in the mountains are not excluded. There are traces of this snake. Don't talk nonsense there. Let's have dinner. Zhao Wenbing lives in the same room with Lao Wang. He Yichao lives in a room with Shuxiong. Lung Yiran is a girl's house. Naturally, he lived alone. Assign a room. And they went to rest to their own men. Zavin finished washing. I always feel that there is something strange about this matter. Then 3 more people were called. Have a meeting. Let's start with that. Listen to what the old man said. This mountain is covered with clouds and mist all year round. Interpersonal seldom. Someone went in. Inevitably, you will also get lost. There's one thing though. I don't understand very much under it. Why do families leave ancestral teachings? It's all the same situation. That's weird enough. Lao Wang was blind to the wild tea picked in the mountains. He slapped his mouth. I look like I'm enjoying it. I noticed this just now, too. Why do all families leave the same ancestor? It's a little weird. The copy over there was received immediately. This village is ancestor. Must know that Chifeng Mountain can't be entered. That's why I left such a legacy. The little witch disagreed. Towards the copycat. Plagiarism. You're stupid. You can't enter the mountain. Is it more important than confessing that there are treasures of gold and silver at home? He immediately refuted. I think you're stupid. A remote village. Where did the gold and silver treasure come from? You think it's all those rich men in Jiangnan? The Zavin soldiers over there were looking down and thinking. Lao Wang said suddenly. Treasure? Yes. It's the same message in a village. It can only tell one thing. That's on Mount Chifeng. There is one that scares them all. Or is it more than anything else? The presence of something more important. Wenbin, what do you say? Zonbin over there was still thinking about something. A few people here are still arguing. At that moment, there was a knock on the door. Take a look at the past. It turned out to be Zhuxiong. He heard that some of the guests were still resting. I'm going to come over to find He Chao. I heard the crowd discussing there. There is no treasure of gold or silver on that mountain. I couldn't help but laugh. Our village. I heard that sweet potatoes are planted. At most, it's the size of a potato. Barren and barren. Where did the gold and silver treasure come from? I don't know about those immortals. How did you live in that place for thousands of years? That's what he said. It's lightweight. But who are these people? It's not about history. It's about dealing with gods and ghosts. The crowd immediately came to the spirit. Zhang Wenbin looked at Brother Zhua and asked, Millennium? You mean your village? Existed for millennia? Oh yes. It is said that in the village, there are also many poets and poets. I don't know which dynasty or generation it is. Just listen to what my dad told me when I was a kid. Our village is remote. It's also very small, but the history goes on for 1,000 years. After speaking, Na Zhuxiong also showed a proud shot. 10 men and 10 horses. Lao Wang, what do you think? Zhao Wenbin asked Lao Wang. Lao Wang over there was already a little excited. If there is such a thing, it means that there must be some historical sites. Then we've really found the right place for this trip. No way, we'll have to go in tomorrow and have a look. The sensitivity of archaeologists to these things. No less sensitive than Zavenbing's sensitivity to cemeteries. He Chao over there had already put his arm around Zhuxiong and asked, Old comrades in arms. You mean it? It's not okay to open and close. Zhuxiong slapped his chest. My old man said it. That can still be fake. Without further ado, what do you think, Wenbing? Lao Wang couldn't hold back his mood anymore. Enter the village tomorrow. The Zhuxiong brothers. How did you get to that village? Did you know? Zhao Wenbin asked. Zhuxiong replied. When I left the village. It's a few months old, baby. I haven't been back since. But I'll ask you tomorrow. My old man will know. If you want to go in, I could bring a few people in. It's better to pay homage to the immortals. The crowd chattered a few more words, so they went back to their rooms to rest. Only Lao Wang and Zhao Wenbin remained. Zhao Wenbin muttered. Chifeng Mountain. Small village. Lao Wang. Have you ever wondered? Why a village down for 1,000 years? It's all the same message. I think there is only one possibility. The ancestors of this village. I'm afraid not to be afraid. It's about protecting something. Let's sleep. Let's go in tomorrow and have a look. Say it and turn off the lights and go to bed. Just wait for the dawn. Early the next morning, the multitudes arose. The air in the mountains is really good. Zavenbing took a deep breath. Yesterday's fatigue is gone. Zhuo Laohan, father and son. I thought everyone was ready early. Eating farmhouse dishes. Drinking green porridge. Made Lao Wang sigh. This Qingqing mountain is not cultivated. Living here is also a race fairy. Fanbai, Zonbin, and Zhuo Laohan. Pick up where we left off with last night. It's basically the same as Zhuo Xiong's description. The village was not big. Hundreds of people. I don't know which dynasty and which generation moved over. Because it's in the middle of nowhere. Land level. There are no girls from other places who are willing to marry. Most of them were intermarried in the village themselves. To this area, almost every family is a bit of a relative. As for those stone men and stone horses, Zhuo Laohan said, those are fetishes. Untouchable. Speaking of the mountain, what did Zhuo Laohan say? Nor is it advisable for people to go. Lao Wang explained his intention in a timely manner. I think it's necessary to go on a field trip. He also said that Zhao Wenbin was a Taoist priest. You can also go in and spin the soul of his wife and daughter. Only then did Zhuo Laohan reluctantly agree to let his son take him. I called out to the blind man and explained the route to him. Before leaving, Zonbin asked He Chao to go to the town. Let him have enough dry food to prepare. I bought a few more bottles of canned kerosene, which was quite advanced at the time. Lamp, mountain rope, flashlight, spotlight, and candles. The more important ones are naturally some Taoist supplies. That's called a convenience. It only takes one morning to sharpen these things, and they're ready. Zhuo Xiong said that this mountain road is difficult to walk, and he led 2 mules. Carry gear on your back. The group was ready to go. This cold was still originally by Zhan's soldiers. Try to stay at Zhuo Laohan's house, but I couldn't stand his stubborn beating. I had to let him go with him. More than 30 kilometers. It's a mountain road again. It's harder than they think. It's good for this group of people. A soldier who is a soldier. The archaeology of archaeology. Lives in the wild all year round. But dragging the little girl. Wait until the village. It's the middle of the night. It was the 6th day of the 7th lunar month. The moon in the sky is not big. But it's also a light road. When the group walked to the entrance of the village, a huge basin comes into view. It turned out that the village was built in such a basin. Under the moonlight, the seemingly scattered village is somewhat dilapidated, even a little desolate. Everyone gasped too. No one knows anything about the village. If you touch it this night, in case of a fall, don't you fall to pieces? Look at the crowd again. The little girl was already crying out again and again. I can't wait to get to the ground and not leave. At this moment, Zonbing was looking at the village below the mountain. Seems to be thinking about something. Everyone was waiting for his signal. The time of a cigarette passed. Zhao Wenbin came back to his senses and said to everyone, there's something quirky about this village. Look down from this mountain. It should be a basin, but you can't see the whole picture at a glance. You see, the mountain opposite. I'm afraid it's the Windy Mountain. Go ahead. He pointed to the front. I saw where the moonlight shone. It's all bright. There is only one place ahead. It was pitch black indeed. It was as if all the light had been swallowed up. He Yichao took out the military tactical spotlight in his bag, hid into the distance, but I can't see what it is. It's as if there's a bottomless abyss on the other side. Zhao Wenbin thought for a moment and said, "Rest here tonight." Ugly. You and Brother Zhua are responsible for setting up the tent. The three of us took turns to feast. This place is not simple. How many years no one lived? Not to mention that there is no smell of popularity. Not even the beast's cry was heard. It's so quiet, too. Go ahead. He went with Lao Wang to collect some dry firewood. 2 large fires were lit. Boiled some hot water. The people ate some dry food. I want to sleep. Before leaving, the blind man brought 2 shotguns. This kind of gun. It's the kind of single-shot shotgun that villagers use to fight wild boars. What about bullets? It is composed of shots and large lead bullets. Punch into the body, scattering wounds. 1,000 bullets enter the body. When it encounters a bone, it bends into the internal organs and inflict burns on the wound. It's incredibly powerful at close range. 200 pounds of wild boar can be knocked down with 1 shot. These 2 guns. Naturally, it is 1 person and 1 shot of 2 people who have served as soldiers. Zhao Wenbin commanded. By Zhao Wenbin and Yichao and Zhuoxiong. 3 hours each. The first firewood has a bear fairy. Zavin was copied in the middle at the end. Zavin bing before going to bed, and he sprinkled stones and brimstone around the tent. Say it's in case something is stepped on. It can also catch fire. Still not at ease, and he planted 7 forks around it. A small Big Dipper town. He threw the seal in the middle and made a camp. Then he went asleep. Maybe I'm tired from the journey. It didn't take long to climb into the tent. Zhao Wenbin fell asleep. When you were sleeping soundly, he heard the robe outside. Suddenly there was a hiss. Phew. Wake him up. Immediately rushed out. There are also burning bears who are napping by the fire. Zhao Wenbin settled down. Feel it. But nothing unusual was found. Glance at it. The 2 snails didn't move. He knocked on Zhuoxiong's shoulder. Ness said embarrassedly as he touched his head, "You may be a little tired." I fell asleep. Zhao Wenbin said, "You go in first and rest. He will then rotate the role. Until the second half of the night. Except for the peaks. Nothing else." Yichao woke up. It was found that Zhao Wenbin had no teaching attitude. I looked at the time and walked over. Don't want to. After coming out, he was blown by this mountain wind. Zhao Wenbin also lost his sleepiness. The 2 of them simply brought a bottle of wine. 1 person drank it 1 by 1. Speaking of Yichao's mother, Mrs. Wang, naturally it is sad again. Zhao Wenbin didn't explain much either. Just pat him on the back. Let him be strong. Yichao's results that year were also excellent. I could have been admitted to a university in Annan, but boys in those days. I always think that soldiers are idols. So he ran away and became a soldier. Because of good physical fitness. Actually became a Tibetan soldier. I stopped my studies for this. Lao couldn't control him, and he swam away. The suffering of the Tibetan soldiers is not something that ordinary people can endure. A few years of life on the blood plateau allowed him to develop a strong body. I've seen a lot of incredible things. It is true that the mysterious Tibet is not known to the world. Open the chatterbox. Yichao followed Zonbing and talked about some strange things he encountered in Tibet back then. Naturally, Zonbing didn't know so much about Tibet. Especially in Tibetan Buddhism, I listened to those things very fascinatingly. This Yichao came back from the army that year, because it was the Tibetan soldiers who were assigned to the localities. I could have been a public servant. But because of Lao's relationship, I was inserted into the archaeological team. Since then, I have eaten this bowl of rice. Fortunately, He Lao is an expert. I train myself for another 2 years. This is a little super. Slowly, it has become an expert. Because the body is good. Therefore, he was arranged by the Institute to take the first shot in a place with difficult conditions all the year round. Before you know it, it's dawn. Look at the extinguished fire. The two looked at each other and smiled. There is a feeling of seeing each other late. Morning food was prepared. He went and woke up the people. To say that the air in Qingqing Mountain is good, then this place is simply full of heaven and earth aura. A few people who got up, breathe in the air of these 100,000 mountains. I felt in good spirits. Sweep away the tiredness of last night. Lao Wang stretched his waist, twisting your neck. Walk to the side of the mountain to exercise. He had this habit for a long time. Suddenly he screamed. OMG, look, I saw the small village that was still in the moonlight last night. It's gone. In its place were churning clouds. And the crowd seemed to be standing in the clouds. There is a high mountain in the distance. Glimpses. Only towering into the sky. Lung still clapped his hands and shouted. Ow, it's a fairyland. So beautiful. Lao Wang looked at Zhao Wenbin and said, the weather has been weird lately. There was no rain last night. Why is there such a big fog? Zhao Wenbin was also shocked by the scene in front of him. Half a day only muttered. According to the spirit of heaven and earth. Think of the essence of the sun and the moon. Chang Yunqi, desire to fly dragons. I don't know the bones. The west wind attracts the deer. Unexpectedly, except for the Kunlun Mountains, Sanshan Mountain, outside the large and small Wind Bead Mountain. There is such a wonderful place in the world. I really don't know which immortal it is. I found such a cave. Down the hill are clouds and mist. I don't see the road down the mountain. I can't go down the mountain for the time being. Everyone hastily ate breakfast. When there is the first rays of sunlight, I don't think much has changed here. When the sun shines on the clouds, there was a brilliant rainbow, spanning the entire basin over the sky. It's like a fairy bridge. And at this moment, everyone is standing at the head of the bridge. The other leads directly to the looming strange wind mountain. Fairy bridge. Zhao Wenbin is already going crazy. If it comes to the clouds when you get up is zenith. So isn't this rainbow just a fairy bridge at this moment? So what's on the other side of the bridge? Zavenbing couldn't wait to go down the mountain. It was as if he had grasped a life-saving straw. When the sun rises in its entirety, the clouds were churning harder and harder, already tumbling towards the place where they camped. In an instant, it fell into a white mist. They can't see each other, and they can only distinguish each other by sound. Zaven shouted, "Sit still and don't move." Poor line of sight. In case you step on the empty plant, the mortals can't save it. Wait for the sun to get bigger. Diluted the fog. Let's do it again.